Take that ugly sign down. My concrete trucks are coming through whether you like it or not. That was what HOA President Denise Calder told me while standing in front of my private bridge, pointing at the red 5-ton limit sign my father had bolted there more than 20 years earlier. Behind her were 3 loaded cement trucks. Their engines were rumbling. Their drivers sat high in the cabs, looking from the sign to Denise, then back to me. Even they understood what she was pretending not to see. Those trucks were far too heavy for that bridge. I did not yell. I did not step in front of them. I did not threaten anyone. I just looked at the small camera mounted in the pine tree beside the road, opened my notebook, and wrote down the first license plate. Because Denise thought she was stealing a shortcut. What she was really doing was exposing a $672,000 HOA scheme, a fake contractor bid, and a clubhouse project that had no legal access without my bridge. The bridge did not break. Her empire did. Before I tell you what was hidden inside that HOA project, ask yourself one thing. If someone ordered cement trucks across your private bridge after seeing a posted 5-ton limit, would you stop them right there? Or would you let the paperwork trap close? Denise did not know me well enough to answer that question. She thought I was just an old man in a faded work jacket, standing beside an old green pickup, trying to slow down a community improvement project because I didn't like change. That was the story she had already started telling people. One difficult neighbor, one outdated bridge, one stubborn man blocking progress. It was a clean story. Easy to repeat, easy to believe, and completely false. You've been notified in writing, I told her. That bridge is rated for 5 tons. No construction traffic. Denise smiled. It was the kind of smile people use when they think paperwork only matters if their name is on it. Ethan, she said, stretching my name like it tasted bad. This community has waited 8 months for this clubhouse expansion. We are not letting one old man with a homemade sign hold up progress. It isn't homemade, I said. It's posted from the county bridge rating file. She did not even glance at the sign. She turned toward the first driver and raised her clipboard. Go ahead, she said. He can take it up with our attorney. The driver looked down at me through the windshield. I could tell he did not like this. He tapped the brake twice. His eyes moved from the sign to Denise, then back to me. I raised both hands slightly. I'm not stopping you, I said. I'm documenting it. Denise laughed. That laugh was the sound that started the whole thing. The first truck rolled forward. Its tires crunched over the gravel approach. Then the bridge gave a low groan under the weight. Not a dramatic sound. Not the sound of something about to snap. Just the tired complaint of an old structure being forced to carry more than it was meant to hold. Denise folded her arms and watched me instead of the truck. You see, she said. Still standing. I wrote down the time. 7:42 a.m. Truck 1. License plate. Company logo. Direction of travel. Load type. Then the second truck rolled across. Then the third. Denise looked almost disappointed that I was not giving her the reaction she wanted. People like Denise feed on panic. They want you loud. They want you emotional. They want you messy. They want you to become the unstable person they already described in their emails. But I had spent 34 years inspecting bridges, culverts, retaining walls, drainage crossings, and rural access roads. I knew something Denise did not. A bridge does not need to collapse for the violation to matter. A warning sign is not decoration. A posted weight limit is not a suggestion. And when someone gives a direct order after receiving written notice, they have done something far more useful than winning an argument. They have created evidence. Denise stepped closer. The smell of expensive perfume cut through the diesel exhaust. Put that in your little notebook too, she said. The board has voted to recognize this road as community access. Your bridge serves Pine Hollow Estates now. That was the first time she said it out loud on camera. Community access. My bridge. My road. My land. I had bought out my sister's half of the Mercer property after our father died. The bridge sat completely inside my parcel, crossing the creek that separated the old farm road from County Spur 18. Pine Hollow Estates had been built years later, north of my land. They had their own approved construction entrance. It was longer, it was steeper, and it required them to pay for a temporary gravel upgrade. My bridge was shorter, so Denise decided it belonged to her. That morning, after the last truck crossed and disappeared toward the development site, she handed me a folded sheet of paper. Formal notice, she said. Cease interference with HOA operations. I did not unfold it. Is that from your attorney? I asked. It's from the board. Then it's not worth as much as you think. Her smile became thin. You people always think owning a little dirt makes you kings. I looked at the bridge. The morning sun was hitting the faded metal plaque my father had welded to the side rail. Mercer Bridge, 1987. He built that bridge after the flood took the old timber crossing. He was not an engineer. He was a farm mechanic with a welder, a stubborn streak, and 3 kids who needed a way home when the creek rose. Years later, when I became a bridge inspector, I had it professionally evaluated. 5 tons was the safe limit. 5 tons was enough for pickups, small tractors, light emergency vehicles, and family traffic. 40-ton cement trucks were not family traffic. Denise followed my eyes to the plaque and scoffed. Sentimental junk doesn't stop development. I opened the door of my pickup. No, I said, but county records do. She blinked once. Then she turned away and walked back to her white Lexus. Her heels clicked on the gravel like she was leaving a courtroom she had already won. That was Denise Calder's problem. She never understood the difference between winning a moment and winning a case. She had the trucks. She had the board. She had emails, threats, a polished voice, and a fake sense of authority. I had a bridge file, a camera, a certified letter receipt, and 34 years of knowing exactly how foolish people sound when they put unsafe orders in writing. By noon, I had saved the footage in 3 places. By dinner, I had called the county bridge office. By the next morning, I had started a binder with Denise Calder's name on the front. And by the end of that week, I realized the bridge was not the prize. It was the cover. To understand why I did not just shrug and let Denise have her shortcut, you need to understand what that bridge was. It was not pretty. It had steel beams under a timber deck. It had guardrails my father welded himself. It had a faded green paint job that had survived more storms than most people survive arguments. In summer, blackberry vines crawled along the creek bank below it. In fall, maple leaves gathered in the corners of the deck until the bridge looked carpeted in rust and gold. My wife, Laura, used to call it the prettiest ugly bridge in Tennessee. She loved that bridge, maybe more than she loved the house. Every October, she would stand in the middle of it with a mug of coffee and take pictures of the creek. Same angle every year, same trees, same old rail. After she passed, I found 21 years of those photos in a shoebox. That bridge was how my family came home, and that was exactly why Denise's words hit harder than she knew. She did not see a family crossing. She did not see my father's work. She did not see Laura's October pictures. She saw a cheap route for her construction trucks. When my father bought the first part of the Mercer land in 1969, there was no development north of us. No HOA, no clubhouse, no pool committee. Just woods, pasture, and an old logging track that turned to mud every time it rained. The first bridge was timber. It lasted until the flood of 1987. That year, the creek rose 6 feet overnight and carried half the crossing downstream like matchsticks. I was 23 then, home from my first county job. I still remember my father standing in the rain, staring at the broken beams. He did not swear. He just said, "Well, boys, I guess we're building something the water respects." It took him 6 months. He bought surplus steel from a closed plant. He traded tractor repair for lumber. He hired a retired welder from the next county for the parts he did not trust himself to do. When it was finished, he painted Mercer Bridge, 1987, on a metal plate and bolted it to the rail. Years later, after I became a bridge inspector, I asked a structural engineer friend to evaluate it, not because I doubted my father, because I knew enough to know that pride is not a load rating. The answer was clear. 5 tons, safe for pickups, safe for my utility trailer, safe for the small brush truck the volunteer fire department used, not safe for loaded dump trucks, not safe for concrete mixers, not safe for repeated commercial traffic. Because the bridge was sometimes listed as a possible emergency crossing during creek flooding, the rating was filed with the county bridge office, even though the county did not own it. That detail mattered later, so I posted the sign. Private bridge, 5-ton limit. For years, nobody had a problem with it. Then Pine Hollow Estates arrived. At first, the development did not bother me. I am not one of those men who thinks every tree cut down is a personal insult. People need homes. Towns grow. Land changes hands. That is life. The original developer was a man named Harold Bryce. 15 years ago, before Pine Hollow sold its first finished homes, Harold came to my kitchen table with a plat map and a thermos of coffee. He asked if I would consider selling an easement across my bridge for emergency secondary access. I said no, not rudely, just no. I explained the bridge rating. I explained the liability. I explained the maintenance risk. And I reminded him that Pine Hollow already had an approved access road connecting to County Spur 22. Harold accepted it. He even put it in writing. No HOA, developer, contractor, resident, guest, or successor entity shall claim or use Mercer Bridge as access to Pine Hollow Estates without written permission from the Mercer property owner. That original Pine Hollow development agreement would later become very expensive for Denise Calder. For years, Pine Hollow used its own road. It was inconvenient, but it was legal. Then the community grew. Bigger houses came in. Retirees from Atlanta moved in. Remote workers from Nashville bought lots. People wanted trees, views, and the feeling of country living. They just did not want mud on their tires. Then Denise Calder became HOA president. Denise was not the first person in Pine Hollow to dislike me. I drove an old truck. I only mowed what needed mowing. I kept stacked firewood behind the barn. Most mornings, my workshop door was open. To people like Denise, that made me look temporary, like a leftover from before the neighborhood became valuable. She moved into Pine Hollow 4 years before all this happened. Within 6 months, she was on the Architectural Review Committee. Within a year, she was board president. Within 2 years, every HOA email sounded like it had been written by someone who believed community standards meant whatever Denise liked. The first time she came to my house, she brought cookies. That should have warned me. She said Pine Hollow wanted to be good neighbors. Then she asked whether I would consider formalizing shared access over my bridge. She said it would be for golf carts, maintenance vehicles, and emergency purposes. I told her the same thing I had told Harold Bryce. No HOA access. Her smile stayed in place, but her eyes changed. Surely you understand this area isn't just farmland anymore, she said. I understand my deed, I said. That was the first time she looked at me like I had insulted her. After that, the letters started. First, they were polite, then firm, then ridiculous. She claimed the bridge created confusion regarding neighborhood ingress. She claimed my private bridge sign was visually inconsistent with Pine Hollow's rural luxury character. She claimed emergency access required cooperation. I responded once, in writing, with copies of the deed, the bridge rating, and the original development agreement. That should have ended it. But Denise was not really after emergency access. She was after construction access. The HOA had approved what it called a clubhouse expansion. Residents were told it would include a larger meeting room, a fitness center, improved lake access, and a small event lawn. The renderings looked harmless. But residents were not told the full truth. The approved construction route required upgrading the HOA's own North Road. That upgrade would cost more than $400,000 before the first foundation was ever poured. My bridge cut 12 minutes off every trip. My bridge avoided the steep grade. My bridge saved Denise's project money. And because she had spent years teaching herself that HOA authority was the same thing as ownership, she decided the only thing standing between her and progress was an old man who did not understand how important she was. She was right about one thing. Something was standing in her way, but it was not me. It was the paper trail my father had accidentally helped me inherit. The first unauthorized crossing was not a cement truck. It was a white pickup with Pine Hollow maintenance written on the door. I saw it on the bridge camera at 6:18 on a Tuesday morning. The truck slowed at the sign. It paused. Then it crossed anyway. 2 men in neon vests sat inside, both pretending not to see the camera. I saved the clip. Then I sent a polite email to the HOA's general inbox. This is a private bridge, with a posted 5-ton limit. Pine Hollow has no access rights. Please instruct your staff and contractors not to use it. Denise replied 12 minutes later. Not the property manager. Not the maintenance supervisor. Denise. Mr. Mercer. The board has determined that the historical use pattern of this crossing supports community access. That was her first mistake. There was no historical use pattern. There was a written agreement saying the opposite. I responded with one sentence. Please provide the recorded easement. She did not provide one, because there was not one. 2 days later, I received something that looked like an HOA violation notice. That was funny, because I had never belonged to the HOA. The subject line read, Obstruction of Community Access. They had listed my address incorrectly. They marked me as an adjacent non-compliant owner. Then they demanded that I remove unauthorized signage from the bridge approach. I printed it. I hole-punched it. Then I put it in the binder. After that came the second crossing. This time, it was a flatbed carrying lumber. Then a dump truck. Then a contractor's crew van. Every vehicle was logged by the camera. Every license plate went into my notebook. Every email went into the binder. I did not call the sheriff yet. I did not block the bridge. I did not park a tractor across it, even though 3 neighbors later told me they would have done exactly that. Blocking the bridge would have given Denise the scene she wanted. A grumpy old man preventing progress. A trespass dispute. A photo for the community newsletter. I gave her silence instead. Silence and documentation. 2 weeks after the first crossing, Denise held a community update meeting at the Pine Hollow clubhouse. I went because a woman named Marjorie Bell called me. Marjorie was 78, widowed, and one of the few Pine Hollow residents who still spoke to me like I was a person instead of a zoning problem. She told me Denise had put my bridge on the agenda. You might want to hear what she's saying, Marjorie said. So I went. I sat in the back row, wearing my work jacket and muddy boots. Denise stood at the front with a slideshow. The first slide showed smiling couples, a new stone patio, a fire pit, and a rendering of a clubhouse with glass walls. Then came a map. A red arrow ran straight across my land and over Mercer Bridge. Denise called it the South Access Corridor. Not my bridge, not private property, the South Access Corridor. She told the room the project had been delayed by one adjacent owner refusing reasonable cooperation. She said the board was working with council to resolve access issues. She said residents should expect temporary construction traffic adjustments. I raised my hand. The room got quiet. Denise's smile tightened. Yes, Mr. Mercer? Is that red line on your map recorded as an easement? I asked. She blinked. This is a planning overview. That wasn't my question. A few people turned toward her. She lifted her chin. The board's position is that the crossing has community significance. That also wasn't my question. Her cheeks colored. Then a man in the front row stood up. His name was Paul Sutter. He was the board treasurer. Ethan, this isn't a courtroom, he said. No, I said. That's why I'm asking now. Denise clicked to the next slide. Moving on, she said. But people had heard enough to wonder. After the meeting, a younger man named Ryan followed me outside. He had bought one of the new Lakeview homes the year before. Do you really own that bridge? He asked. Yes. But Denise said the HOA had access rights. Then she should show you the document. He looked uncomfortable. We're paying a special assessment for this expansion. How much? I asked. $6,000 per household. That stopped me. Pine Hollow had 112 homes. $6,000 each. That was $672,000 before loans, vendor payments, or reserve funds. For a clubhouse expansion, maybe that was possible. But something about Ryan's face told me residents did not know what they were really paying for. I asked who the contractor was. Calder Development Services, he said. Denise said they gave the best price. Calder. Same last name. I did not react. But inside, a door opened. The next morning, I checked state business records. Calder Development Services was registered to Aaron Calder, Denise's brother. That was when my bridge dispute stopped being about trespassing. It became about an empire. The sheriff first came to my property on a Friday afternoon. Not because I called him, because Denise did. I saw the cruiser roll up the gravel road and stop before the bridge. Sheriff Tom Coyle stepped out slowly, adjusted his hat, and looked at the sign. Tom and I had known each other for 20 years. We were not exactly friends, but we were small county familiar. He had inspected storm washouts with me back when I still worked for the county. He knew I was not the kind of man who called law enforcement over a mailbox dispute. Denise arrived 30 seconds later in her white Lexus. That told me everything. This had been staged. She stepped out holding a folder and wearing the face of someone about to perform concern. Sheriff, thank you for coming, she said. Mr. Mercer has been interfering with lawful community development access. Tom looked at me. Ethan? I handed him a copy of the deed, the bridge rating, and the original Pine Hollow agreement. Private bridge, I said. No HOA easement. 5-ton limit. They've been sending construction traffic. Denise gave a soft laugh. With respect, Sheriff, Mr. Mercer has a long history of hostility toward Pine Hollow. That was new. Tom turned to her. What kind of hostility? He has posted aggressive signage. Tom looked at the sign. It says private bridge and 5-ton limit. He records residents. He records vehicles crossing his property, Tom said. Denise did not like that answer. She opened her folder and pulled out the paper she had given me on the first day. The HOA board voted to designate this as community access, she said. Tom read it. Then he looked back up. Mrs. Calder, a board vote doesn't create property rights on land you don't own. For one beautiful second, Denise had no words. Then she found some. We have attorneys reviewing that. Good, Tom said. Until they produce a recorded easement, don't send vehicles across this bridge without permission. Denise's jaw tightened. Are you issuing an order? I'm explaining trespass law. She turned toward me. You're enjoying this. No, I said. I'm tired of it. Tom asked whether I wanted to file a trespass complaint. I said not yet. Denise smirked, like that was weakness. It was not. I wanted her notified by a sheriff, in front of witnesses. I wanted her given a clean chance to stop. I wanted the next thing she did to be fully intentional. She gave me exactly that. 2 days after the sheriff warned her, Denise changed tactics. She stopped calling me unreasonable. She started calling me dangerous. She sent a resident email saying I had created an unstable access situation, and that the board was exploring emergency legal remedies to prevent interference with construction. Then, on Monday morning, Calder development trucks crossed the bridge again. This time, Denise was not physically there. But at 8:03 a.m., she sent an email to the contractor, copying 2 board members. Proceed using south access. The posted limit is not enforceable against HOA-approved contractors. Mercer cannot block HOA progress. Ryan forwarded me that email before lunch. I printed it on yellow paper so I could find it quickly later. That one sentence changed everything. Before that email, Denise could still pretend she was confused. After that email, she was notified, warned, and proceeding anyway. So I sent my own certified letter. I sent it to Denise, to the HOA board, to Calder Development Services, to the HOA's insurance carrier, and to the county road and bridge office. The letter was simple. It stated that Mercer Bridge was private property. It stated that the bridge was rated for a maximum of 5 tons. It stated that the bridge was not available for commercial construction traffic. It listed the dates of unauthorized crossings. It attached the deed, the bridge rating, and the original development agreement. And it warned that continued use would be treated as knowing trespass and intentional violation of a posted safety limit. The insurance copy mattered most. People like Denise fear embarrassment. Contractors fear delays. Boards fear lawsuits. Insurance companies fear documented knowledge. A week later, I received a letter from the HOA's attorney. It was beautifully written nonsense. It said the HOA disputed my interpretation. It said Pine Hollow reserved all rights. It said I should avoid inflammatory accusations. It did not include an easement, because there was not one. I put that letter in the binder too. Then Denise escalated the way arrogant people always escalate. She made it public. At the next HOA meeting, she told residents I was threatening the project because I wanted money. I had never demanded money. She said the bridge was structurally sound. It was, for 5 tons. She said the board was managing a difficult personality. That line came back to me through Marjorie, who called sounding embarrassed. I'm sorry, Ethan, she said. People are starting to believe her. Let them, I said. You don't care? I care, I said. But I don't need to convince everyone today. There was a pause. Then she asked, what are you doing? I looked at the binder open on my kitchen table. By then, it had 6 sections: deed and land records, bridge rating, HOA correspondence, sheriff notification, vehicle logs, contractor records. I'm letting her finish the story, I said, and Denise was about to write the best chapter herself. The word trap makes people imagine something hidden in the road. A chain across the bridge, a spike strip, a weakened plank, something dramatic. That was never my trap. I would never damage my own bridge, and I would never put a driver in danger just to prove a point. My trap was boring. That is why it worked. My trap was paperwork, cameras, certified mail, public records, and patience. By then, I had 3 cameras, 1 wide-angle camera in the pine tree, 1 small trail camera facing the bridge deck, and 1 mounted under the eave of the old equipment shed, angled toward the approach road. All 3 cameras captured the sign. All 3 captured vehicles before they crossed. Every morning I downloaded the clips and matched them against my notebook. The cement trucks were the easiest. They came from Rock Valley Materials. In our county, load tickets were not hard to subpoena if things became legal. But at first, I did not even need a subpoena. A driver named Luis helped me. Luis was the first driver from that first morning. He came by my house after dark one evening and looked nervous standing on my porch. Mr. Mercer? That's me. I don't want trouble. Then you came to the wrong bridge, I said. He gave a weak laugh. Then he handed me a folded copy of a delivery ticket. I told my dispatcher about the sign, he said. I told Mrs. Calder too. She said the HOA had cleared it. The ticket showed the gross vehicle weight. It was well over 5 tons. Not close. Not debatable. I looked at Luis. Why bring this to me? He looked back toward the road. My brother drives, he said. If a bridge is posted, you don't play games. She shouldn't be telling us to ignore it. I thanked him. Then I made a copy. I did not use his name in anything public. I just added the ticket to the binder. After that, More pieces came in. Ryan sent me board emails. Marjorie sent me the special assessment packet. A former HOA secretary mailed me old meeting minutes anonymously. There was a sticky note on top. It said, "Check the vote dates." So I did. The board had approved Calder Development Services before disclosing the final project cost to residents. The competitive bid process listed 3 companies. One was Aaron Calder's company, one had dissolved 2 years earlier, and one shared a mailing address with Aaron's company. That was not a bidding process. That was theater. The special assessment packet said the expansion would improve community recreation capacity, but the contractor drawings included things residents had never voted on: a rentable event pavilion, a private catering prep kitchen, expanded parking, and a dock improvement labeled Guest Launch Access. Guest, not resident. Then I found the financial piece. Pine Hollow had created a separate amenity partnership account. It was supposed to collect deposits for future event rentals after construction, but the account had already received money from an outside vacation rental company before the clubhouse was built, before residents knew it would be rented out, before the legal access problem was solved. Denise was not just saving money by using my bridge. She was keeping her project alive long enough to lock in outside revenue. If the HOA had to use its approved northern construction road, it would need the expensive upgrade. That cost would expose the real budget. The special assessment would not be enough. Residents would ask questions. The outside deal might collapse. My bridge was the shortcut that kept her numbers looking clean. That was her empire. Not a kingdom with towers. Just a stack of lies held together by one private bridge she did not own. Once I understood that, I called 3 people. First, the county bridge engineer, Anita Price. She was sharp, direct, and had no patience for people who confused politics with load ratings. Second, the HOA's insurance carrier. Specifically, the risk investigator whose name appeared on their policy correspondence. Third, Sheriff Coyle. I did not ask any of them to rescue me. I sent them documents, dates, photos, letters, video clips, wait tickets. Then I told all 3 of them the same thing. I am not asking you to believe me. I am asking you to witness the next crossing. The sheriff called me the next day. "Ethan," he said, "are you planning to block the bridge?" "No." "Good. Don't." "I wasn't going to." "I know," he said. "I'm saying it because Mrs. Calder is telling people you might sabotage the crossing." I almost laughed. She used that word? She did. Perfect. Tom paused. "You expected that?" "I expected she'd accuse me of the thing she hoped I would do." "Are you doing anything tomorrow morning?" "Watching trucks." "Mind if we watch with you?" That was the first time I let myself smile. The next morning, I parked my truck by the equipment shed. I had a thermos of coffee and the binder on the passenger seat. At 7:30, the first contractor pickup arrived. At 7:41, 2 cement trucks turned onto my gravel road. At 7:44, Denise Calder arrived in her white Lexus. She stepped out, looked at me, and smiled like she was walking into another easy win. She had no idea Sheriff Coyle was parked behind the tree line. She had no idea Anita Price from the county bridge office was sitting in the passenger seat of his cruiser. And she definitely had no idea that a risk investigator from the HOA's insurance carrier was recording the whole thing from the county vehicle behind them. Denise lifted her clipboard. "Proceed," she told the driver. And just like that, she stepped into the trap. The first cement truck stopped before the bridge. That driver was not Luis. He was older, with a gray beard and heavy shoulders. He had the look of a man who had been told 2 different things and liked neither one. Denise walked up to his window. I was close enough for the camera to catch her voice. "You're cleared," she said. The driver pointed at the sign. "That says 5 tons. That sign is not enforceable." "I wrote that down," the driver said. "Loaded. I'm way over that." Denise's voice sharpened. "The HOA has already cleared liability. Cross the bridge." That sentence was so good, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. The driver hesitated. Then Sheriff Coyle stepped out from behind the trees. "Hold up right there." Denise turned so fast her sunglasses nearly fell off. "Sheriff?" Tom walked toward us slowly. He was not angry. He was not dramatic. Anita Price followed him with a clipboard of her own. The insurance investigator, Mark Valdez, stayed back at first. He took photos of the sign, the truck, the bridge approach, and Denise's Lexus. Denise recovered quickly. "Sheriff, I'm glad you're here. Mr. Mercer is again interfering with lawful access." Tom looked at the truck. Then he looked at the sign. Then he looked at Denise. "Actually, ma'am, I'm here because you were notified this is a private bridge with a posted weight limit." She lifted her chin. "We dispute that." Anita stepped forward. "You dispute the ownership?" or the load rating? Denise frowned. Who are you? Anita Price. County Bridge Office. That changed the air. Denise looked at me, then back at Anita. This is not a county bridge. Correct, Anita said. But the rating report was filed with our office, because this crossing was listed for emergency review. Your board received a copy. Denise waved a hand. That report is old. Anita did not blink. Load ratings don't expire because they inconvenience a project. The cement truck driver looked like he wanted to disappear. Tom asked him to remain parked. Then he turned back to Denise. Mrs. Calder, did you instruct this driver to cross? I told him the HOA had access. That's not what I asked. Her mouth tightened. Yes. After written notice? Our attorney. After written notice? A long pause. Yes. But. Tom held up one hand. Anita walked to the bridge and inspected the sign. She took pictures of the post, the deck, the side rail, and the plaque. Then Mark Valdez approached. Denise spotted the logo on his folder. Who is he? Risk investigation, Mark said. Your carrier received notice of intentional use of a private posted bridge for commercial construction traffic. Denise's face changed. Until that moment, she thought this was still a power dispute. A sheriff could be argued with. A neighbor could be smeared. A county office could be delayed. But insurance was different. Insurance companies do not care about social status. They care about notice, liability, and whether someone knowingly created an uncovered risk. Mark asked her a simple question. Were you aware this bridge had a posted 5-ton limit before authorizing construction vehicles to cross? Denise looked at me with pure hatred. This is harassment. Mark did not blink. Were you aware? She said nothing. That silence was also useful. Then a second contractor vehicle arrived. It slowed behind the cement truck. A man stepped out wearing a Calder Development Services vest. Aaron Calder, Denise's brother. He walked up irritated, not yet understanding the scene. What's the holdup? Ryan had described him to me, but this was the first time I saw him in person. Expensive boots, clean hard hat, phone already in his hand, like he was about to call someone important. Anita looked at his vest. Are you the contractor of record? Yes. Did your company receive written notice of the bridge limit? Aaron glanced at Denise. That glance said more than any confession. Tom saw it. Mark saw it. My camera saw it. Aaron tried to laugh. Look, this is a private civil matter. We're just doing the job we were hired to do. Anita pointed to the cement truck. Then you should know better than to route that across a posted 5-ton bridge. Aaron's face hardened. Do you know what delays cost? I answered before I could stop myself. Less than fraud. Everyone turned. Denise's eyes narrowed. What did you say? I opened the binder. Not dramatically. Not like a movie lawyer. Just like a tired man opening the folder he had spent weeks building. I handed Tom the contractor records. Then the bid documents. Then the state business filing. Then the special assessment packet. Then the outside rental agreement. Tom looked through the pages slowly. Denise tried to step closer. That is HOA financial material. Ryan's voice came from behind us. No, he said. It's ours. I turned. Ryan was standing near the road with Marjorie, and maybe 20 other Pine Hollow residents. Someone had told them to come. I later found out it was Marjorie. She had called everyone she trusted and said, if you paid the assessment, you should see this. Denise went pale. Public collapse does not always start with shouting. Sometimes it starts when the first witness realizes the story they were told does not match the thing in front of them. Ryan looked at the cement truck, then at the sign, then at Denise. You told us the HOA had legal access. Denise snapped. We are handling it. Marjorie stood small and steady. You told us Calder Development was independent. Aaron swore under his breath. Mark Valdez closed his folder. Based on what I'm seeing, I'll be recommending reservation of rights pending investigation. Denise looked at him. What does that mean? It means your insurer may not cover claims arising from knowing violations. For the first time since I had known her, Denise Calder had nothing polished to say. The bridge was still standing, but everything behind her was starting to fall. 3 nights later, Pine Hollow's emergency HOA meeting overflowed into the hallway. I almost did not go. Part of me wanted to stay home, sit on my porch, and let them tear each other apart without me. But Marjorie called again. They need to hear it from you, she said. No, I said. They need to hear it from the documents. Then bring the documents. So I did. Township Hall smelled like old carpet and burnt coffee. Residents filled every chair. Some stood along the walls with their arms crossed. Denise sat at the front table between Paul Sutter, the treasurer, and Aaron Calder. Aaron had no business sitting with the board, but apparently, No one had told him that yet. Sheriff Coyle stood near the back. Anita Price sat in the second row. Mark Valdez from insurance sat near the aisle with a legal pad. That alone made the board nervous. Denise opened the meeting with the voice she used when pretending a disaster was just another agenda item. We are here to address misinformation regarding the clubhouse expansion and temporary access concerns. A man in the back shouted, "You mean Ethan's bridge?" Denise tapped the microphone. "Please, let's maintain decorum." Ryan stood. "You told us there was legal access." Denise glanced at Paul. The board relied on advice available at the time. I raised my hand. The township moderator looked at Denise. Then he looked at the room. "Mr. Mercer may speak." Denise's expression said she hated every word of that sentence. I walked to the front with the binder. "I'm not a Pine Hollow resident," I said. "I'm not in your HOA. I don't vote in your elections. I don't use your pool. And I don't care what color you paint your mailboxes." I paused. "But I do own Mercer Bridge." A murmur moved through the room. I held up the deed. "This is the recorded deed. The bridge and the road under it sit inside my property line." Then I held up the original Pine Hollow development agreement. This agreement was signed before Pine Hollow was built. It says the HOA, residents, contractors, guests, and successor entities have no right to use Mercer Bridge without written permission from the Mercer property owner. I heard someone whisper, "Successor entities?" Good. That phrase mattered. Then I held up the bridge rating. "This is the county-filed inspection report. 5 tons. Denise interrupted. "That report does not account for modern improvements." Anita Price stood. "There have been no county-filed structural improvements that change the rating." The room turned toward Denise. She looked annoyed, but still confident. So I moved to the screen. I connected my laptop to the township projector. The first video showed Denise standing beside the bridge, pointing past the red 5-ton limit sign. Her voice filled the room. "Proceed." Nobody moved. Then I put the weight ticket on the screen. 41,000 pounds. Then I put the deed beside it. My land. My bridge. No easement. That was the moment the room stopped arguing. Over the last several weeks, HOA contractors had crossed that bridge repeatedly, with vehicles far exceeding the posted limit. The board, the contractor, the county, and the insurer had all been notified in writing. After that notice, Denise had instructed drivers to proceed anyway. Denise leaned into her microphone. "That is a selective interpretation." Sheriff Coyle spoke from the back. "I was present when she did it." Silence. There are moments when a room changes temperature. That was one of them. Ryan stood again, holding his own packet. "What about Calder Development?" Denise said. "They were the most qualified bidder." Marjorie lifted a paper. "Then why did one of the other bidders use the same mailing address?" People turned. Paul Sutter shifted in his chair. Aaron Calder muttered, "This is ridiculous." I took out the state business records. Calder Development Services is registered to Aaron Calder, Mrs. Calder's brother. One competing bid appears connected to the same address. Another listed bidder was not active at the time of the bid. A woman near the front spoke up. "We paid $6,000 each for this." Another voice asked, "Did the board know?" Paul finally spoke. "The board president handled vendor review." Denise turned on him. "Don't you dare." That was when the board broke. Not with a confession, with self-preservation. Paul opened a folder. "I have concerns about how the assessment was presented." Denise stared at him like he had slapped her. "You signed every approval, based on information you provided." Aaron stood. "This meeting is over." Sheriff Coyle took one step forward. "No, sir. Sit down." Aaron sat. Then Mark Valdez stood. "The carrier is issuing a reservation of rights and opening a full review. Continued construction access over Mercer Bridge is not authorized under current risk conditions." A resident asked, "Does that mean the project stops?" Anita answered, "If the only available route is the posted private bridge, yes. Unless the HOA uses its approved northern construction access and obtains proper permits for upgrades." Ryan turned back to the board. "How much would that cost?" No one answered. So I did. "About $400,000, based on county road estimates." The room erupted. That was the number Denise had hidden. That was why my bridge mattered. Without it, the project budget collapsed. The special assessment was not enough. The outside rental deal was premature. The contractor relationship looked rotten. The insurance coverage was uncertain. And the residents finally understood the truth. They had not been funding a simple clubhouse. They had been funding Denise's machine. Denise tried one final move. She pointed at me. "He is not part of this community." I looked at her for a long second. "No," I said. "But my bridge was apparently part of your budget." That line did what no document could do. It made the room laugh at her. And for people like Denise Calder, laughter is worse than anger. Anger means they still control the story. Laughter means the spell is broken. By the end of that meeting, 3 board members had called for an independent audit. Paul Sutter resigned as treasurer pending review. Construction was suspended. Aaron Calder left under sheriff escort after refusing to stop interrupting. Denise stayed seated at the front table, hands folded, face white. The bridge still had not cracked, but her empire had. The official consequences came in layers. First, the county issued a notice. No commercial construction traffic could cross Mercer Bridge without a new engineering evaluation, owner permission, and proof of proper insurance. Then the HOA's insurance carrier sent a letter. They denied automatic coverage for any claim tied to the previous unauthorized crossings, pending investigation. Then the independent audit began. That was the part Denise could not charm her way through. Invoices did not care how polished she sounded. Bid records did not care about her sunglasses. Meeting minutes did not care that she had spent years calling herself a community advocate. The audit found undisclosed conflicts. It found irregular vendor selection. It found premature outside rental deposits. And it found misleading language in the special assessment packet. It also found that several residents had been told, in writing, that construction access was secured. It had never been secured. My bridge was never theirs. Aaron Calder's company lost the contract. The outside rental agreement was canceled. The new board filed to recover legal fees, inspection costs, and improper payments tied to Calder development. Aaron's company returned the deposits it had already taken. Residents received partial refunds from the assessment fund after the new board froze the project account. Denise resigned 2 days before the recall vote. She called it a decision made for the good of the community. Nobody believed her. She did not just lose her title. She was barred from serving on any Pine Hollow board or committee again. The sheriff's office did not parade her out in handcuffs. Maybe that would have made a better thumbnail. But real life is usually quieter than that. The investigation into false statements and misuse of funds went to the district attorney. The civil side went to lawyers. The HOA spent the next year cleaning up the mess she left behind. But the public consequence came faster. One Saturday morning, a crew came and removed the big glossy sign near the development entrance. Future home of the Pine Hollow clubhouse expansion. It had stood there for months like a promise. They loaded it onto a flatbed and drove it away, using the HOA's own northern road. The long way. I watched from my side of the creek. Marjorie stood beside me with a paper cup of coffee. Feels strange, she said. What does? Being relieved something didn't get built. I nodded. Sometimes the thing people sell as improvement is just control with better lighting. She smiled at that. A month later, the new HOA board contacted me. Not with threats, not with fake notices, with an attorney who asked politely whether we could create a written emergency-only access agreement for fire and medical vehicles. I said yes. I had never wanted to endanger anyone. That was the lie Denise told, because it made me easier to hate. We drafted a simple agreement. Emergency vehicles only. No construction traffic. No resident access. No HOA maintenance vehicles. No claim of easement. The HOA would contribute a small annual amount toward inspection costs, not because they owned the bridge. Because emergency access benefited both sides of the creek. They also paid for a new sign. This one was professional, reflective, and impossible to pretend not to see. Mercer Bridge private property 5-ton limit, no HOA, access without written permission. The day it went up, Ryan came by. He looked embarrassed. I believed her, he said. A lot of people did. I'm sorry. I looked across the bridge at Pine Hollow. It was quiet that morning. No cement trucks, no clipboard, no white Lexus. You weren't wrong to want a better neighborhood, I said. You were wrong to trust someone who told you my property was hers. He nodded. The new board later passed rules requiring full conflict disclosure for vendor contracts. They required resident review for special assessments. They also required recorded proof before claiming access across private property. Marjorie called it the Mercer rule. I told her not to. She did anyway. As for the bridge, it stayed what it had always been. A narrow crossing over a stubborn creek. Steel beams. Timber deck. Old green paint. And my father's plaque still bolted to the side. Mercer Bridge, 1987. Sometimes people ask whether I was disappointed the bridge never broke. They think the story would be more dramatic if the cement trucks had cracked the deck, or left some giant scar everyone could photograph. They missed the point. I never wanted the bridge to break. I wanted the lie to break. And it did. Denise thought power meant having a title. She thought ownership could be voted into existence. She thought if she said community enough times, my property would somehow become hers. But a clipboard is not a deed, a board vote is not an easement, and a rich-looking lie is still a lie when the county records open. The bridge didn't break, her empire did.